The topic of my paper for this session is the future prospect or framework for the Gulf security, with a special highlight on the experience of GCC countries in this regard. The topic of Gulf security, as presented in my paper, will be tackled from different perspectives, among which, most naturally, from the perspective of topics pertaining to terrorism and extremism in this region. But at the outset, and before delving into this topic, allow me to extend my deepest gratitude and regards to our Bahraini brethren and to the leaders of Al-Manama Dialogue. They have provided us with this amazing opportunity to meet once again in such a fruitful dialogue with such a select of experts, decision makers, researchers, and academics. This meeting has a great importance because it is held as our region is witnessing an escalation of tensions and a diversification of threats and sources of threats. So it is only natural for us to feel even more concerned as sons of this Gulf region, being surrounded by conflicts and challenges. But first, we have to remember that facing and countering these challenges and these threats is not new. And it is not an isolated process for us members of the GCC. Our recent history is full of examples of crises, of threats, of challenges ever since the establishment of the Council. The recent events have proven that GCC member countries have always been capable, with the help of God and with the wisdom of its leaders, but also the awareness of its citizens. So they were capable of overcoming the challenges and hurdles with a great deal of success. These challenges have only made us stronger and more adamant on keeping up on this path. Our development wheel was never stopped. The expectations of the cynists and the sarcastic ones have never stopped us from moving forward. I'm not trying to banalize the size or scope of the challenges which we face today. I'm not trying to inspire a false sense of security and reassurance. I would just like to remind you that we have long been used to hear such pessimistic expectations when facts have proven times and again that our determination and our perseverance were the rock upon which we rely and the shore upon which the waves of velleities would break. The experiences in the past few years have proven that the capacities of GCC countries are stronger than some had expected. The wisdom of our leaders and the awareness of our citizens have allowed us to see clearly, even in the darkest of days. The recent events have proven the validity of our theories and choices. A lot of international powers and international experts come back to us to adopt the lessons that we have learned and to adopt the visions that we have suggested after having criticized them and denounced them in the past. This is due to a very simple reason. At the end of the day, only truth will prevail. We have always been, and we shall remain, determined in our conviction that security is the utmost priority for our countries. And we cannot go easy on that. No freedom, no development, no growth, no prosperity can be achieved without security. The past few years have demonstrated the validity and the value of our choices and options in this regard. With the help of God, we were capable of protecting our facilities and protecting the welfare and livelihoods of our citizens. As a matter of fact, our growth and development rates have soared. at a time where the region surrounding us was undergoing a lot of turmoil. Please do not take this saying as a saying that this region is without challenges and without failures. We are not saying that we are successful in all of the solutions that we suggest and in all of the methods that we adopt to face such problems. Just like any other community, just like any other country, we do experience failures in overcoming certain hurdles, but we also encounter a lot of successes. Sometimes we find ourselves incapable of solving certain problems, but we always seek to benefit from our lessons. We always arm ourselves with patience and with perseverance to adapt to changes. Despite all of that, my vision for the security framework for the GCC's future is very simple. It is as simple as the classical or the traditional methodology. There is no need for us to reinvent the wheel or to start from scratch. What we should do is to build on the achievements of the past and on the cumulative expertise that we have built throughout the years. We need to adapt with changes, with a lot of confidence and with a lot of trust in our values and potentials. In light of the above, I personally deem that the future of the GCC countries relies on three main dimensions. First, what we can call as the national, the local dimension of GCC member countries themselves. This is why the pillars and the foundations of any future security framework for the Gulf region has to be built on the rich and diversified experience of the GCC and to improve that experience to rise up to the level of challenges ahead. The diversity and the richness of these experiences have to make us even more determined to develop this process and to promote and strengthen our mutual institutions and our collective potentials in order to harness the prospects of political, social, and economic common grounds between us. This would help us, in turn, devise a strategy which is homogeneous and which is standardized and unified, which stands strong against all attempts to destabilize and deroot it. The second dimension is known as the regional dimension. This dimension engulfs the entire Gulf region and its countries. This guarantees stability and security for our future. This lies heavily on the spirit or the trend upon which we have to build our relationships between neighboring countries. In this context, if we look at the policies and the strategies adopted by GCC countries in the past 2 decades and until this day, we would notice that our record is clear of any aggression attempts. Our countries, our brethren countries, never resorted to conflict and violence to solve problems. Quite the contrary, you would find very clear recourse to Islamic values, to peaceful values to deal with our difference. We have always refrained from meddling into other countries' businesses, and you would see that our countries have been adamant on fighting terrorism and extremism in all of their forms. We have long fought communal and sectarian instigation and sectarian strife, and you would see that our countries are always willing to communicate through direct or indirect means and to open channels of communication with all those who share these values and who believe, just like us, in this course of action. These principles that we have adopted in order to devise all of our strategies and policies lead us to be very prudent and cautious when it comes to the welfare and the stability and security of all countries of this region, and preventing these countries from escalating and slipping into conflict and destruction. This also leads us to beseech all of our neighboring countries to steer away from the inner affairs of other countries and to commit to fighting extremism and religious militias without taking into consideration their backgrounds. We should all steer away from civil strife and sectarian strife because this only yields destruction and chaos. Also, we have to reach out to our neighbors from the other bank of the Gulf, and I mean here, Iran. I speak for my own country when saying this, and this is why I will not delve into the details of such a discourse, and I will not say anything that might impact the negotiations and discussions that might take place between the two parts. I will just say that Iran is a very important country. It is a long-standing historical player, and it has the right to be a key player in the region. We will be the first to welcome and salute such a role if this role serves the interests of this region and its welfare and development. We equally welcome Iran as a full-fledged partner, playing its due role towards GCC countries and towards the region as a whole. But if we are to see any success from all of these mechanisms, we need to walk the walk and not only talk the talk. We need to truly build trust between the two parties, and we need to build full-fledged neighborhood relationships and sustainable ties built on the common principle of not meddling in other people's internal affairs. There's a popular saying that goes this way: I hear you talk and I like it, I see you act and I hate it. This is a popular saying in Arabic, which truly explains that we need to see real action and tangible measures. The third dimension is the international dimension. The borderlines between internal policy and international affairs in our contemporary world are very blurry because, in fact, internal and external threats for individual security or collective security in the GCC area have become all the more intertwined and inextricable. This leads us to be even more aware of the threats and risks of terrorism, which does not spare or discriminate between countries. This is why we are in dire need for collective efforts deployed by all countries equally to counter terrorism. His Majesty King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz has already spoken about the dangers of terrorism. He has said that it is necessary for us to curb this plague, and he has said that we need to prevent it from spreading out and invading the entire world. This is why we need to underline the very, very close link between the rise of terrorism in this region and the humanitarian crises undergoing in Syria, in Palestine, in Libya, in Yemen, and in other countries too. For all of these reasons, we always need to cooperate at the international level on these fronts, especially that the GCC region is of extreme strategic importance for the entire world. And it would be illogical to separate between the interests of the GCC countries from the interests of the entire world. The future security for the Gulf region relies heavily on the activation and promotion of international partnerships on the one condition that this is built on a peer-to-peer treatment and common interests. We are the sons of this region, and we know our interests better than anyone else. However, we are open to any type of coordination and cooperation. We, however, should never be subjugated to anyone. We cannot serve as a theater for other people's battles. And at a time where preserving partnerships and alliances with major powers is of utmost importance, this should not be at the expense of our own capacities to defend ourselves, especially in the face of current and upcoming challenges. This remains our constant, and everything that does not respect this line of action will only be a temporary solution or an ad hoc solution. In addition to these three dimensions upon which relies the framework for the security of GCC region in the future, whether in its regional, local, or international dimensions, this tripartite, or this three-dimensional approach, will be the perfect solution in my eyes to guarantee security, prosperity, and peace for the peoples of the Gulf, and in order to preserve the achievements that have been already made, and also to guarantee development and growth, not only for GCC countries, but for the entire region and the entire world. Thank you for your attention. May the peace of God be upon you.